Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I'm sure you're all dying for some Conquering Tide content. Most people probably don't even know what Conquering Tide is anymore because I've just been absent for so long. Anyway, so let's continue with this character alignment sheet. If you haven't seen it before, just go watch the Romulus one. I explain a bit about what I'm doing and why, and yeah, start with that. So I was thinking, should I do this in the order of the boxes or just whatever I feel like? I was actually sketching Venus today, so I'm going to go one square across from Rom and move on to Venus. Like I said, I was actually sketching her today on the tube ride back from work. Oh, honestly, I just draw because I like drawing, and it just gets so much unwanted attention. There was this guy sitting next to me and he just kept leaning over to look. Good lord, can I help you, young sir? I didn't say that, but I kind of wish I did. It was a bit rude. He was just poking around, and sometimes people say things, sometimes they don't. It's awkward when they do. Anyway, Venus. So, Venus is one of the few horses that isn't actually getting a name change. While she is named after the planet and the Roman goddess, the Greek counterpart of which is Aphrodite, I don't feel like her name warrants a change. There aren't any major characters named Venus in pop culture right now. The only character I can think of maybe is Sailor Venus from Sailor Moon. I really don't think people are going to get them confused. I mean, unless there's a fan crossover or something, which you never know, somebody might do it, but it's not going to be me. So, Venus is of course the goddess of love and romance. Originally, my Venus was scripted to be sort of a sweet and unassuming character that didn't have a particularly strong personality. She was more of a sidekick to the main characters, which were originally actually just Gaia, Loki and Neptune, not Thor, Ariston and Venus. They were more sidekicks, but that's completely changed now. When I was actually making the Conquering Tide model horse films back in between 2010 and 2012 or whenever it was, I began coming up with loads of ideas for complex backstories relating to Venus, which is actually why I became a little bit disinterested with making the physical films. I realised that the filmed versions would never be the real Conquering Tide that I had imagined. I just couldn't make it happen with the models. There were so many limitations, so here I am, finally making a move on these comics. Towards episode 9 of Conquering Tide, I wrote a major role for Venus in the finale of season 1. And I'm not going to spoil it, because I'm still implementing that original idea into the comics. And to everyone's dismay, I didn't even finish filming that final episode. I just got so frustrated that I just couldn't produce the image that was in my head and all the emotions that were going with it. It just wouldn't happen with the filming I was doing. Conquering Tide is my baby, and I just feel like I wasn't doing it justice. And that's why I stopped. While some of you still might be a bit peeved at me for making that decision, I promise you the comic will be 1,000,000 times better. I can do everything and anything I want to do with the comics, and it's fantastic. So, about Venus. She's bubbly, but not that annoying, happy-go-lucky kind. Yes, she's kind, but she's also a little brash and impatient at times. I love the way she's going to develop over time, how she's really going to grow and toughen up. She's energetic and positive, but without being that saccharine kind of sweet. She's of course grown up with all cults around her, so she always feels like she needs to prove herself to the world. Venus has always been treated like this little girl. I mean, she is pretty damn adorable. So she started behaving like that initially, behaving like a lady or a little girl, but over time her true self really shines through, flaws and all. The different herds have contrasting rules and customs. Whilst the quintessence herd tends to treat both genders with equal respect, without even a question, and the Renaissance herd do value both too, but they sometimes favour the females. They have a lot of female leaders. They're a very mystical herd, and there's certain traits that are associated with females that can be more beneficial. However, with the celestial herd, there's quite an imbalance. Like some things in modern day society, the colts and stallions, the males, tend to be favoured over the mares and fillies. They always want males born, and the girls are expected to be maternal and do all the mundane tasks, go collect berries and food, and they're not trusted with heavy lifting and big tasks unless they can take on the bigger stallion in the herd, in which case they can be scouts and and defend the herd. So you can kind of see why Venus would be considered unfit for fighting or heavy lifting related tasks on face value. She is pretty small, but that's not to say that they've judged her fairly. About Venus personally, she had a very close relationship with her father as a young filly, and he inspired her to be courageous and boisterous and brave. But after he was killed defending the herd when she was about 10 years old, she fell apart. Being raised by her mother alone from that point, she pushed her into seeing herself as different from the colts, that little girls shouldn't be playing rough and they can't argue back. So she had to be a little lady now. The comics start when she's about 12 years old, so this is 2 years on from when her father died. But interestingly, something that has carried on from the film series is that Venus keeps a leaf from where her father fell in battle in a glass bottle around her neck. She believes that part of her father's soul has imprinted on the leaf, but you'll have to read the comics to find out more. She's the same colour scheme as before, but kind of a peachy palomino with greyish blue eyes. The only thing I've changed on her slightly is that she's got a few bird catcher spots on her face, so they look a little bit more like freckles. She also has a super thick mane, which gets in the way, but she likes to keep it long, so she puts it in a braid when she's matured. Build-wise, she's similar to that of a Welsh pony, either, section B or section C. She's quite a curvy figure with dainty feet, thick, strong neck, but with a delicate, almost slightly dished profile. And she's about sort of 13 to hands high-ish. So that's all for Venus, folks. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, and hopefully we'll move on to some more characters and you'll get to know more about them too. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.